Hello, everybody. Welcome back to One Leeds. Yes, it's my face again. We are back here with another bit of content. Make sure you're slapping a like on the video. The interaction's been unbelievable. The engagement has been through the roof. So thank you so much. Really appreciate everything you guys are doing. A lot of hype around Leeds United at the minute with Jesse Marsch coming in. Yeah, exciting times. Definitely going into the Leicester game. We'll have loads of coverage coming up as well. But straight away, guys, I want to get into exactly what happened last night. We were mid-stream, mid-debrief. News came out, wasn't really able to articulate how I felt. I've put 2 videos out since then. Make sure you go check it out. My initial reaction to Jesse Marsch's appointment at Leeds United. Check that one out. And of course, how tactically I think he could play for Leeds United and what to expect. And we're going to delve into that a little bit in this video as well. So make sure you stay tuned. But first of all, I think it's really interesting as well to be reacting to his interview, Jesse Marsch. So we're going to do a little bit of that in this video as well. So make sure you stay tuned, everybody. I wanted to sort of react to Andrea Radrizzani's comments as well, but it's a little bit by the by. You know, he said what he said. I kind of want to move forward with it. I understand the absolute adoration we have for the main man and all this sort of stuff. And listen, there's been an outcry for Leeds fans. We don't know how it's going to go with Jesse Marsch, but for me, I'm going to believe in it. I really am. You know, like I've believed in Marcelo Bielsa. You know, I may have questioned certain decisions, but I still believed in the guy until maybe the sort of Spurs game where I thought a change might help Leeds United. And I've said to you guys multiple times, I'm not doubling down on that. So listen, I want to get into his interview, which was very not controversial in terms of Jesse Marsch, but people I don't think expected him to sound like that in terms of his professionalism, in terms of how he's encouraged everybody to think maybe different things to what they initially thought of Jesse. So obviously we'll get into that and get your comments in, everybody. So let's move on, shall we? Obviously, I was looking at this a little bit earlier on. It should be on screen now in terms of Mr. Radrizzani and his thought process and all this sort of stuff. But I think it's key. You know, Jesse Marsch was appointed as Leeds United manager. We can see it there. But this is just his interview. And we're going to get into this little spate here. And we're going to talk a little bit about it.
Games have been to play to the end, to fight for each other, to never stop, to give everything that they have to each other at every moment. So this mentality, this mindset to play for the fan.
See, I just want to talk on that, and I don't want to interrupt it too much, everybody. But it's mad, that isn't it, with regards to Raphinha, and that's something a lot of Leeds United fans acted on straight off the bat. The Raphinha reaction, getting up, gleaming at Jesse Marsch. We know he's been out of form, and you're speculating to accumulate, aren't you, with Raphinha? But you do wonder in his head if he felt a change was necessary, if he felt that it wasn't quite working out for him in this system, and if he honestly feels that the new manager might keep this side up that he ultimately really cares for. We don't know what's going on in Raphinha's head. There's been a lot of abuse for him, which I think is absolutely comical because we'd already be relegated if it wasn't for Raphinha. And I just found his reaction really, really interesting here. Let me know what you think in the comment section below to that. I just found it quite fascinating.
Fans, to fight for the fans, to fight for each other. This is what I love. For me, I just want to help take the torch to the next phase and understand that everything that's been done has laid an incredible foundation. And coming in this moment, I just want to try to do everything I can to help take the club into the next phase of our history. And I think my style of play, my aggressiveness, the desire I have for teams to be intensive and to run and to make things difficult for the opponent fits with what has been done here the last 3.5.
So the reason I want to stop it there, and this is going to be one of those videos, guys, where I do stop and start a little bit. I think that's key because what he's already referencing is he's not going to completely change everything. This isn't going to be a completely different style. It's going to be a modification on what we've already done, because a completely different style is ridiculous. It would be absolutely cataclysmic, and you might as well relegate Leeds United now. You bring a Nuno in, you bring a Big Sam in, Hodgson-esque managerial appointment. Leeds are going to go nowhere. We're not set up for that. That transition to a new style would take a year in itself. So modifying what Leeds United are doing right now, bringing in a new zonal approach, it might not be as flashy as Marcelo Bielsa. It might not get you off your seat as much as Marcelo Bielsa. But for me, that's absolutely critical right now. that it's not too flashy, that we still keep the same principles, but we modify it so we become difficult to beat and we're able to adapt to the opposition. And that's one thing I always recently I felt was missing. Opponents, it was way too easy to get through Leeds. And I've said to you guys multiple times before, you know, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But I do think in this current predicament we're in, I think we would have gone down with Marcelo Bielsa because there was no adaptability. And I don't know if this guy's going to bring this, but from what he's saying right now, that's something he's going to try and at least implement.
So it will be a big challenge to do it in a short period of time, and now make sure that we evolve in a way that can be successful for what the future may bring, but do it now. So I have to really identify how to do the important things and the simple things right away, and then build complexity as we continue to
Mr. Calvin.
move forward. I have a lot to prove to our fan base that I'm the right guy to follow such a hero like Marcelo Bielsa.
Facts.
But I think the key is that when they see the team play, right, and if the team plays with passion and they play with heart and they give everything they have and they show that they're also intelligent and clear with the playing model and they're aggressive, then I think normally the fans will tolerate the coach even if they don't like his accent. Or
see, that straight away, that's something he's picked up on, which I quite like. And he said it with a little bit of humor. He sniggered a little bit, hasn't he, when it's come to it? And I do like that because the acknowledgement coming over to Europe and being American is naturally going to be difficult. We all know it is because there is a stigma attached to American players, American coaches, American owners. There is naturally, I keep saying naturally, but there is in the Premier League. It is true. So that's something he's addressed, which I really like. It shows a little bit of a different side to him, a little bit, look, he's smiling there as well. And I think what's fascinating about that little bit as well was his sort of communication with Calvin. It's the little things you pick up on. It's the fact that Calvin looked a little bit shy there. You know, will he be extremely willing to prove himself now to this new boss and you know, and put himself in the fore? You know, will he need the optimum fitness to be part of a Jesse Marsch setup like he would have done for a Marcelo Bielsa setup? Will he be able to come in for 12 games at 85, 90% fitness in Jesse Marsch's system, which he wouldn't have been able to do with Marcelo Bielsa? Will he be able to do that in Jesse Marsch's system in a 4-2-2-2? Because he could potentially be bailed out by the man next to him, Adam Forshaw. These are all questions that are going to come to the fore very, very quickly for Jesse Marsch. And this is something that he needs to figure out ASAP. But it's going to be really, really fascinating for me to see what's going to go forward with these injured players. Are they going to come back quicker? And we're going to get into that in a little bit, because the fitness is a huge thing for a Bielsa system. The fitness is a huge thing for the Marsch system, obviously. But is it as imperative? Do we need to get these players in now, even if they are 85, 90% fit? And do they have more of a chance of featuring quicker under Jesse Marsch?
Or if he's not as popular as the previous coach. And over time, I found that I've always had an incredibly passionate and well-connected relationship with the fan bases everywhere I've gone. So football culture for me is the best part of being a manager, is okay, working with the team and trying to get the team to represent everything that you know that they can be and you want them to be. And then what that means to be a club and perform for your fans and now have a strong identity with what the community is. So I will work toward that every day. And I know that our players have already shown that in spades. So it will be fun. It will be difficult and there'll be a lot to manage, but I know we'll have fun.
So yeah, I mean, really interesting, really interesting. Spoke so well, so well. And I expected him to come in and have a little bit of a sheet, but he almost it was very off the cuff. There's some buzzwords in there, aggressiveness, style he talks about a lot, which I like. But the principles are making this simple, taking the complexity out of it, taking the pressure away from the players at the minute, taking the pressure away from Illan Meslier, taking the pressure from Pascal Struijk, taking the pressure away from Luke Ayling and Junior Firpo, and letting them know and we've seen this in a Sky Sports interview we did yesterday, letting them know that the pressure isn't on. There's 12 games to go, 36 points to play for. And I think that is so important because I think the players are feeding off the anxiety now, which we all are. But when you look at it, when you do take a step back, there is a lot of games to go. We've seen how much it has flipped in the past 3 or 4 games in terms of people not even talking about Leeds for relegation, whereas now suddenly it's a formality. Leeds are going down, Burnley are looking amazing. So if this guy can flip the switch, if this guy can inspire these players immediately, that is going to be so good for Leeds. I think the other fascinating thing to talk about as well is the communication. The Leeds players throughout the season look to have had, well, throughout the 4 years under Marcelo Bielsa, this is going to be the difference. And I just found it really interesting with the team talk there, where he's addressing the whole, you know, the club, and they're giving him a clap at the end, and he's able to converse English to English. You know, he's able to do that, which a lot of people might think is not a big deal, but it's a fresh voice. It's something very different to what they're used to. Obviously, they've had Marcelo talk in his beautiful way, almost poetically, and it has also come through a translator. So does the message hit home as hard as this guy? You know, this guy is an English speaker. He's Mr. Motivator by the looks of it. And it's going to be really interesting to see whether or not the players do feed off that and react to that. We know these set of players are very, very impressionable, hugely impressionable. And it's not like the Leipzig cohort who, when you compare that lot to the Leeds lot, I do feel like our players are a little bit more humble and a little bit more willing. And I was very, very encouraged by what I saw just then. Players weren't dejected, slumping in the chairs, which you sometimes do see when managers are going and meeting players for the first time. They were up, they were hugging him. They were, you know, it's all together. There's a unity, and that's what Marcelo's built, a foundation. So really, really interesting. We're going to share and just have a look at a couple of other things as well, which I want to discuss on with the new boss and you know what he's essentially got to come into. It's an injury boost, which hopefully will you know I mean, we need it, don't we? Let's be completely honest with you. With each other, we need this hugely. This man, we saw him meeting there with Jesse Marsch. Him in a 4-2-2-2 system is hopefully going to benefit Leeds massively. Mike McGrath as well, who really broke the Bielsa news initially for me. You know, he spoke about Valverde. He spoke about Jesse Marsch. He spoke about Corberán, about being on a 3-man list. He was the one who initially said it. So Mike McGrath has essentially said that the injury news is on the horizon for Jesse Marsch. Huge injury boost for Patrick Bamford, Calvin Phillips. No mention of Liam Cooper though, which I do think is big in its own right. But as we've said here, guys, it was all smiles at Thorpe Arch as Marsch arrived, with Raphinha one of those to look extremely happy at his presence. McGrath shared the injury news. Players will later introduce to Marsch, their new manager, tasked with steering them out of the relegation danger. The American has an advantage of a squad expected to benefit from fresh coaching ideas for the final 12 games. Marsch could also have players returning from injury on the horizon, with the likes of Phillips and Bamford sidelined during Leeds United duty. So that's huge. That is big. That is big, obviously, having those two back. The system will facilitate that as well. And we're going to get into in a little bit about what I think the 4-2-2-2 system is going to look like. But that is huge. And that's something to take into consideration, because with Bielsa, it looked like Bamford and Phillips were always around the corner, but we never really knew when they were back. You know, we still don't know when they're going to be back. But hopefully with reports like that, if he's able to not only galvanise the team, but galvanise those who are injured, you know, to get back into the squad, not saying that they wouldn't have been galvanised anyway, but give them that little bit of fresh impetus, you know, oh my goodness, you know, everybody else is within this squad now. I need to fight for my place. And Phillips should think that. Bamford should think that, because what you're going to get for me for this guy is Rodrigo potentially up front and Gelhardt potentially up front. Which, you know, might put a little bit of pressure on Patrick Bamford there as well. So that's definitely something to look into. So that's hugely positive. Another not so positive thing, story that's come out. I don't know if this is largely true, to be quite honest with you, and naturally things like this are going to come out, of course. But a lot of people discussing, well, this article in particular, and I've seen a little bit on Facebook, about Rodrigo already being unsettled after the change of manager. Now, we don't need to go into this article too much, but the latest, according to La Provincias, has been that Rodrigo suffered a big blow because of Bielsa's sacking with the 66-year-old, one of the main reasons he joined Leeds. Now, listen, that is going to be a real natural thing to say. Bielsa, you know, is the people who came with him, players-wise, are naturally going to be downbeat. But you've seen Raphinha there, who I think the big quota of him coming in would have been because Bielsa is there. He looked overjoyed. You know, players Firpo looked really happy there as well, in my personal opinion. We didn't obviously see Llorente, etc. But Rodrigo might be cut up by it. He definitely will. I mean, he referenced in his earlier on Leeds United interview about coming because of Marcelo Bielsa. But this could give him a fresh impetus in terms of not only coaching ideas, but actually having a proper position where he's played in before. I don't think it's ever worked as a pressy number 8. It hasn't. None of us like to see him in midfield. It might benefit Click as well, because Click and Rodrigo together has been a horror show. So I think potentially seeing him up top with a Joe Gelhardt, with a Patrick Bamford, this is something that we've all spoken about for a while and wanted to see Bielsa used. And he sometimes did in a 4-4-2, maybe when we were against 3 up top, but it was very rare. Now, if we see this, Leeds, I guess the whole takeaway from this is Leeds do have options, even with injuries out. We're going to get onto the lineup in a little bit, as I said. But Rodrigo could flourish in this. He really could. We bought him as a striker. He was moulded into an 8. I don't think it ever worked. It's not worked with Rodrigo, but this could be the lease of life, even if he is looking to move on in the summer. If we are able to get a tune out of Rodrigo, this could be the making of him. It really could. So that's really interesting to hear. He might be gutted. I'm sure he is, like we all are. But it also could be a really positive thing for Rodrigo here. So lineup is another thing, right? Lineup. Everybody's talking about this, that, and the other. I've just gone on a free thing today, which has got me playing in red, which annoyed me, but I couldn't change it. So yeah, I mean, listen, this is sort of something that I think we'll be looking at in terms of the lineup and in terms of Leeds United going forward. Can't blow that up, which is really annoying. But there you go. I might be able to if I zoom in, actually. Boom. There we go. The wonders of modern technology, everybody. So this is sort of what I'm looking at anyway. I'm going to blow that up a bit more. So nobody in net. I'm going to go with Meslier there, I think, because if we don't have a goalkeeper, that might be quite tough. So yeah, I think this is sort of what we would be looking at with Jesse Marsch. Potentially, you know, I've just gone with certain people who I would like to see in that lineup. But there's options there, as you can see. Eli Meslier in net. Positively, it looked like Klaassen put in a really good performance last night, which hopefully will build him up. What could you see at the back? You know, we know it's going to be a little bit more zonal. We know we're going to attack as a unit. So you almost need to have a little bit of cohesiveness in the lineup, which could be an argument why Bate wouldn't start, because has he got that cohesive relationship, as I've just said, with Adam Forshaw? I'm not sure he has yet. And with 12 games, we might need to have someone in and around Adam Forshaw who understands his style of play. But then if it's system-based, it's going to be very different, because, you know, it's all about just moving together and trusting one another. I'm sure they can trust each other, being part of a Bielsa system. So obviously you've got there from right to left, you've got Dallas who can play right back. You've got Ayling in there as well. But the defence as well, you're going to see a lot, in my opinion, less of what we've been seeing potentially with Bielsa, where it might be a defender in central midfield. That could be something that Jesse Marsch throws outside of the door, really. We might actually see more midfielders in midfield positions. Who knows? But that's why I've just gone with a little bit more of a defensive structure, defenders in defence and midfielders in midfield. And then what you can see here is, if I just rotate this here, what you can do is, the reason I put these two guys in here is because, you know, you have seen Jesse Marsch play this sort of style as well, where we have Bate there, Forshaw just there, and it becomes a 4-4-2 diamond. So obviously you might have Raphinha in there, and then Harrison out here. I'm not sure how it would work, but there you go. I think you are going to see maybe that front two a little bit more. But if we do revert just back to that formation that I was just referring to there, which is a 4-2-2-2, I think it's going to be a little bit like this. So obviously Leeds do have options there, which I think a lot of people do forget. A lot of people think that this is it. You know, Leeds United are struck by injuries, and I do get that. Of course, I completely get that. But I do think that Leeds do have options. We do have options if you look at it. So yeah, I think right to left, as I've mentioned, Dallas, Strout, Koch, Firpo. I put Harrison there, and you guys might think, what on earth? We mentioned this on the debrief, but I've said this numerous times. I would love to see Harrison as a left wing back, a left back. I think defensively he is good, even though the past sort of 3 or 4 weeks it's been poor for him. You forget the American link there as well. He's played for New York. You know, Jesse Marsch has obviously managed in New York as well. So whether or not there's going to be a little bit of a connection there, a little bit of a sort of an ability for Jesse Marsch to maybe get through to him a little bit more. vary his style of play a little bit. Jack Harrison, me and KG sort of have spoken about it last night, and I think Jack Harrison could definitely deploy in a left back role. I think he's actually better defensively than he is going forward. Firpo there as well. They're really the only options we have, unless Dallas was, to switch to the left hand side. Cot Llorente, Strout, Cresswell, Dallas, Ayling, and then in the midfield, obviously you've got Forshaw, Click. Dallas, who could be an option there. Bate, who I would start. You've got Somerville there as an option. James, as I've said, we can move these guys out wide, and I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to start in a 4-2-2, but that's essentially how it will look during the game. And Gelhardt and Rodrigo up front, which I'm really excited to see. I want to see more of this guy. You guys know I do, and I think that's going to be a real weapon for Jesse Marsch to use. I really do. And listen, it's going to be really fascinating to see. But I'm from what I've seen so far, I'm excited. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you think of his interview? Were you happy by it? Are you a little bit apprehensive? And yeah, we move forward to Leicester. There'll be loads more content out. Make sure you smash a like on it, everybody. And